Get Pucked. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Pucked podcast. Dave, Luca, Vito, and Matt here. How you boys doing?
Fantastic.
Amazing.
You guys sound so enthusiastic. So amazing.
You know, you took what I was going to go with it. Like, one of these days, you guys are going to come and be like, it's rough out here. Anyways, but good. I'm happy to hear you guys are doing good. And we hope everybody who's listening is doing well as well. The Canadiens are not in the playoffs. So what are we doing here? Well, we're in off-season mode here on the Get Pucked podcast, and we're going to start talking about it because while the playoffs are still roaring on and they're still in the second round only, we are looking to the future. We're looking in the Canadiens. We're seeing what's going to happen in this offseason. The draft lottery just occurred. We see where the picks are. We know the Canadiens have presently the 16th and 17th overall pick in the draft. But a lot of things to kind of get into. But let's talk about something right out the gate, something that we've kind of not talked about for a little bit because, due to the nature of the injuries and where the team and how the team played for the course of the season, Kirby Dach has been the man on the side. We're going to talk about him in this instance because I think there were some interesting things said by Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon in their presser at the end of the season. You're welcome to go find it online if you want to get the exact wordage, but the sentiment was he's got a spot according to them, but where it is and how it's going to be used is really up to him. How he comes into training camp, where he's at, will dictate everything. My personal take on it was, it wasn't like a roaring promotion of the player and like they were all, yeah, man, he's our guy. It was very much, if anything, a lukewarm sort of comment, which made me think, does Kirby Dach still have a spot on this team, in your opinion, with the future of this team? Even if he comes back and he might play well next season, just long-term prospects now of him on the team, where do you guys stand on that? What do you think his position might be? Where do you think you can see him slotted in? What do you think he can offer the team still? We can round robin it to start, and then we'll bring it back the other way. Dave.
Yeah, I think he could still fit on this team. I think he will, obviously, with the comment. Maybe not as the 2C that everyone loved to pen him into right off the bat when they got him, but I think there's room for it. I'd like to see how his chemistry with Demidov. You got to kind of try to everything and see how everything fits. I'd even give him another shot at 2C down the road. I mean, he'd have to earn it and he'd have to play it. I want to see how he plays. He's obviously a guy who's prone to injuries, and maybe that factors into how we've seen him play so far, and his training and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I'd like to see him. I mean, they got him for a reason, right? I think they saw something in him, and it's obvious to see the potential that's there. And I'm a firm believer that eventually you're going to have to break up that top line. I talk about it all the time. You can't just keep going with this line nonstop. You have to spread it around. And if you do that, Kirby Dach kind of facilitates things, and you could kind of play him around and put him with different things. And the size he brings makes for interesting pairings. If you're going to move Slav down, if you're going to put Line A somewhere, it makes for interesting opportunities and potential there. So I'm not saying that he's a lock to stay on this team forever, and he will definitely be here forever. But I think that he deserves at least another chance. And this is coming from a guy who I'm not the biggest Kirby Dach fan or believer. You guys know that. But I still think that, there's time for him to develop into something. He's still young. There's still time for it. So definitely room for it. And especially if you're going to mix those top two lines up.
Vito?
There is space for him on the roster. Clearly, there is a spot for him. He's going to have to earn it. The problem is, as we all know, he's been getting hurt way too often, and it's hindered his development. Personally, I think that the stage where the Montreal Canadiens are at, and with him in the lineup, I think he's going to be a player that might be included in a package for a trade for a chip to fill that 2C or even the RD. He's gonna be included in something to make either the money work, convince the GM on the other side that he's still a young kid, which he is, that he's a big guy, he was a former third overall pick, all those things that Montreal hoped to have gotten from him, and it just didn't work here. Doesn't mean can't work elsewhere, and doesn't mean that they're gonna move him. But if I had to put a little wager on something, I would say that he's probably gonna be included in a trade this offseason. in some package to make for a piece that's going to make more sense for Montreal.
Well, that's an interesting take. We can circle back to that one and see how and why you think a team would be interested in Kirby Dach. But okay, Luca.
No, I think he has a spot on the team, just not at any center position whatsoever. I think he, 100% flourish more on the wing. I think though this is the last chance he has. I think the Canadiens are not going to give him more than just this season. Like I think outside of camp, like moving forward, I don't think they're gonna give him another shot. I think if he doesn't come out, running like boots on the ground like right away, it's done. It's pretty much done. I think what's gonna happen is what Vito said. They're probably not gonna trade him in the offseason, but they are gonna trade him at trade deadline.
I think he's got more value
at trade deadline.
He's got more value, which is not much value, but he's got more value now being thrown in as a piece at a digestible cap for a guy who's got top 6 upside and could most likely, like you said, he'll flourish more on the wing than the center. He's clearly struggles in the face-off circle. He was struggling even in Chicago, but I honestly think I think he's gone. Yeah. It's my theory. I have no sources on this, but I think he is gone.
I just what is his value?
Well, his value is not very high right now.
That's why I'm not saying he'd be the centerpiece of a trade. Be something that makes the money work and is considered at this point with the amount of games he's played. I wouldn't call him a prospect and all that, but he hasn't. You've seen flashes and glimpses of what he's capable of doing when he is healthy, right? But that's the thing. The big question mark around Kirby Dach is not necessarily his skill set, his face-offs, his IQ, or any of those things, or some of the other things that about his game that people didn't like, and then there's game aspects that people did. It's the fact that can he stop getting hurt? Can he get healthy again?
And there's always been a problem that the Habs had, right? We always have players that get injured time and time again.
So ultimately, when you're saying that you think he's going to be traded, it's he's going to be the throw-in piece to make money work. Not that a team is coveting Kirby Dach and they're coming over saying, "Hey, we want this person, and Dach."
I don't think anybody's really coveting Kirby Dach, but he still has it's a nice package going on there. Like there's nice stuff to his game if we can get that. And every GM and in the NHL always feels like they're the team and they're the ones that are going to be able to get what they need to get from a player. Okay. So I don't think he'd be the main piece to go to the other team, but he'd be something to say, okay, that kind of maybe tips the scale to maybe make that move happen. Or it's when you come down to it, if it comes down to a prospect, let's say Philip Messar, I'm just throwing out names now, who was a former first round pick. A team might say, I'd probably take a flyer on Kirby Dach over Philip Messar. You know what I mean? It's just that it moves the needle just enough that it makes it more enticing than maybe the other prospects that they have that haven't played any NHL games or proven anything at the NHL level just yet. And he's young enough that he's still could be quite enticing for a team who's looking at a 6'4" center winger center who's got top 6 upside.
But what's interesting is all three of you guys are saying that there is a potential spot for him. And while I will not say that there isn't a spot, I'm not going to be so, I'll say, definitive like you're saying and saying that there is a spot. I really feel like I'm hopeful there's a spot, I think is the way I want to put it. But to the management's point of view, I'm in a complete agreement with them. I understand that it's not the player's fault that necessarily he got hurt all these times and he's bordering on injury prone at this point. But the fact remains that these things happen. I've read quite a few things now about how that he came into camp last season and he wasn't perhaps maybe in the best shape that he could have been, and that was also something that maybe prevented him from getting a little bit more into it, and then perhaps led to the other injuries that were happening. I see it. I see what you're saying, Vito. I see the potential, but I also looked at Dave when we both made the same face here, and it was like, yeah, you're not trading him. There's no value. No team is going to take him. No team's going to take on his 3.5 or whatever he is. It just doesn't make sense.
So
for a team, it's a low risk, possibly high reward.
Or what if they, inflate his numbers by putting him on the wing with, like, I don't know, Demidov. Like
well,
get some
if he
assistance.
plays wing and he does well, then
They're not going to trade him.
you're not trading him. He's got a spot on the team and he stays.
I think they will trade him, barring an incredible beginning to the season. That's why I said trade deadline. I think he really needs to wow them.
Where's
That's why
But then his value will go even lower. If you play him and he doesn't perform, his value is going to tank.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Even if you put him on the wing, where's the space for him in Montreal right now?
Third line,
yeah.
Okay, who are you taking out on the third line?
Well,
Yeah, but
that's
there's gonna
another.
be-
I mean, it depends who's sticking around. Yeah,
There's going to be
But there's
injuries.
going to be interest. So
There's gonna
Kirby
be
Dach's going to
lots of
sit in the stands until somebody gets hurt. What is he, Pizzetta?
Yeah, he could. It depends
doing
on how he plays in training camp and how it goes, man. There could definitely be a spot for him if he plays his heart out and he plays well, man. You could definitely fit him into the lineup somewhere. And we know that this roster is going to move. You know that this roster is going to move. There's going to be pieces going, right? So you're going to have to.
I think he's a piece that's going because when you look at the lineup and you look
But
at
who's
the
going to take him, Vito? Like it's just like
I'm not
like,
saying
I know
he's
in your
gonna be-
perfect like NHL world, like yes, we're gonna take our scraps and transform him into something. You have to give in the NHL.
I'm not even. It's not even about the scraps. Again, let's say it was part of a bigger trade. He might. Okay, Matt, you want to use the term throw-in? He might be the throw-in for a team that's a low-risk, high-reward situation because you're going to look at him and say,
It's
okay,
possible, for
especially
sure.
for a team that's maybe rebuilding, wants a bit more, wants to inject youth into their lineup. You're telling me right now, hypothetically speaking, Pittsburgh Penguins can't use Kirby Dach.
They could
And
probably
his
spend their
upside.
money elsewhere. And I know, honestly,
yeah, or give it to
Not
their
that
own,
general
their own
manager.
prospects.
Not that general manager.
that's fair.
It's
That's the only
no.
point.
I mean, listen. I
Don't
guess.
make me tap this line. I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, like if you're looking at it from the Canadiens' point of view, it makes sense. But it's just like you're going to have to find somebody, a trading partner that's either very stupid or that's you're willing to take a huge
If
risk.
his cap was like 6-7 million, I would agree with you.
Well, yeah,
But you talk about
obviously.
3.4, 3.5, what is it, 3.5 million, something like that. It's so digestible for 1 year to take a gamble on a kid like that a team looks at it and says, okay, yeah, fill up the roster, get a guy who maybe by the trade deadline, or maybe, he becomes the guy, maybe he takes a step forward. What the maybes tend to pile up and it becomes enticing for certain teams and certain general managers at that price point.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
There's nothing it's not out of the realm of possibility, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be hard, especially considering that his health and on all things considered. Like, I honestly think that the Canadiens are kind of stuck with him for the time being.
Yeah,
I just don't think there's space for him right now.
2 years.
But there's no
I just don't
choice,
think
there's
space on the roster for him. There's none. None that puts him in a successful position. Let's say top 6. The first line stays intact, whatever. Okay?
Sure.
Now they go and get a 2C, a bona fide 2C.
Yeah, I think all bets are
Then
off.
after that, you have Laine, who's still under contract for a year, and you got Demidov. Now your third line. Josh Anderson, with the way he played and finally finding his role, he ain't moving off the right wing. Center, they're going to have to probably put Newhook there or Jake Evans. And then you have Brendan Gallagher.
Well, you got Heineman also.
And you got Heineman. And you got Kapanen, and you got Owen Beck, who's going to probably
Both of those
eventually
guys
have to
could play
you know what I
AHL,
mean?
though.
But those are also guys who they can both play the AHL, yes, but they can also be moved. Those are more enticing pieces for a team than a Kirby Dach, right? So, like, it's just I get your point, and it very well may happen, but I'm just saying, looking at the roster how it is now, I mean, they're kind of stuck with him, in my opinion, and I think that there's a way for him to get back into the lineup and play. Hopefully to a better potential than he's been showing.
I mean, that's what I said. And that's why I say I'm hopeful that he has a spot. Before we go to the next topic here, it's just that I believe in Kirby Dach, if you will. If he can come in healthy, fit, had all this time to recover from the injury. They didn't rush him back. They didn't get him in. He hasn't played in months and months and months. You hope that there'll be a little hockey rust, I'm sure, when he's actually put into game time again. But if he can come in fit and in great shape and unencumbered by any injuries, absolutely he is a guy who can make the team. For sure. But he's got to be that guy.
I was the one that was cheering for Kirby Dach. Even when the Montreal Canadiens acquired him, Dave was not a big fan. He brought up the issues in Chicago and all that. I was a fan. I saw his upside and potential. It didn't happen here in Montreal. It just didn't. It didn't work out in Montreal. And when you look at where the Montreal Canadiens are today and what their needs are, there's no spot for Kirby Dach right now.
Okay. But I'll tell you where there is a glaring hole, which we talked about before, and an interesting name that is out there who I think has a spot. This is an interesting, I believe this is a polarizing person. So I'll get your take starting with you, Luca. And it's fun too, because he's in the playoffs right now, causing all kinds of chaos, and we're always talking about him. But Sam Bennett seems to be a really good potential for 2C. When you think about what he can bring, what he's bringing in the playoffs, the kind of gamer he is, I believe he shoots left.
He is.
Yeah. So he's a left shot. Decent in the dot, I also believe. Pretty decent with the points as well. And then, of course, it's going to be the contract, which we'll get to in a second. But before we get to numbers, Luca, do you think Sam Bennett, everything he is and every kind of, we'll call it baggage that he might bring, is a guy who you can see come in and play that 2C role here and be what the Canadiens are looking for?
Yes.
Okay, a little bit of thought there.
Yeah, a little bit of thought because is the Canadiens, don't you wish they would have a team where Sam Bennett wouldn't be the 2C, he'd be more like the 3C? Like,
I think I can say that about all teams, but yes.
No, I understand. I get it, but
I agree.
I think we all agree we want the Canadiens to be the best version of themselves so that they can eventually win the cup. And Sam Bennett being the 2C is not going to win you the cup. As much as big of a monster as he is in the playoffs, I'd rather have a superstar name. I don't know. That's my personal opinion.
Well, okay, but
I would love to have him.
Okay,
if it was me, if it was my team, I'd love to have him.
So I get, and I understand what you're saying too, but I mean, I think we got to be a little bit more fair to the realistic nature of the hockey of the NHL of where we are today. Would we want a superstar at 2C and be like an Edmonton? Well, of course, but I don't think they're out there to get, and I don't think that they can acquire that. So you're looking at this unique opportunity with a guy like Sam Bennett, who is not a superstar.
No,
I think we can all agree. I don't think he's a superstar. I think he is a star player. Yeah, especially with what he's been doing of late. Yeah. And on a contract that I think teams are going to be very interested to pay.
Well, when you put it that way, then absolutely yes.
Okay, so I sold you on Sam Bennett. Okay, okay. No, that wasn't my intention, but okay. Okay, cool. Vito, what do you think?
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Sam Bennett is in the cap era, and where the Montreal Canadiens structure is going in terms of salary is one of maybe the 3 centers I have in mind as a 2C for the Montreal Canadiens. He's just one of those guys that's gonna, brings a playoff pedigree. He's got the Stanley Cup. He's an agitator. He doesn't bring the physical toughness, so to speak, like a Xhekaj would, but he's got a tough element to his game that he's kind of like
brings a lot of.
It's kind of yeah. He's a bit dirty. He's like. You know how Brendan Gallagher's a pest, gets in your face, and people just want to punch his face? Mm. Well, Sam Bennett, it's like almost Brad Marchand-esque. It's minus the, licking a person's face and doing the stupid antics that Brad Marchand used to do, but he's in that, like he's a rat. He's a bit of a rat player. And you know what? I don't mind having something and somebody like that in Montreal getting under people's skin and throwing them off their game, and players focusing on him rather than focusing on the other players that we have that we will need them to go produce and whatnot. His numbers are not like, oh my God, superstar overwhelming, but they're just enough for a 2C that it hits that edge where you're like, okay, statistically he's putting up decent numbers. There's maybe a couple more. Like I said, there's 2 more centers that from a trade perspective, from acquiring them, that I think Montreal would probably get a bit more talent from than Sam Bennett. But at, let's say, where I think Sam Bennett's going to be around $6-7 million or somewhere in that pocket there, maybe 7 being the high end. It's not bad where the cap is going, and for a guy that's what he's able to do and still being under 30 years old. So I'm pretty good with Sam Bennett. But I have an amount in my head that I would not surpass for this guy if it becomes a bidding war, because there's going to be teams, if he doesn't re-sign with Florida, there's going to be teams lining up and throwing some money at him.
He's going to get paid like $7-8 million, man. And his career high is as many points as Juraj Slafkovsky got this year. Like, I'm sorry, but like, it's just not it for me. Before that, he was in the 40-point range. Like, that's Jake Evans numbers, man. Like, you're going to pay that guy.
How's that Jake Evans numbers? The guy
38
got
points last year. 38 points last year. Okay, so
Jake Evans did it once. He's now a 40-point guy, even though he didn't hit 40 points.
Sam Bennett got 40 and 41 points, and then this year 51 points, playing alongside Tkachuk and Verhaeghe. Like, come on!
Like I said, he's one of three that I'd be okay with.
Who are the other two?
You don't want to tip his hand. I think I think I know, but anyways, I think Maddie's approaching that question a little bit later. But in the to me, it's like I think Sam Bennett is a little bit over. I think people fall in love with his play, and they love his edge, and of course he's definitely a playoff performer, right? Like he's really, really good in the playoffs. I think he has like 30 playoff goals, and he has the pedigree. I just don't see it as a 2C. I think you're going to have to overpay for him. I think he's overrated. I would stay away from Sam Bennett if I'm being in complete honesty with you. I think he fits within the Florida team. I think he's sheltered there, and he play and it suits him, and it suits his play. They play exactly the way Sam Bennett. Like the Florida Panthers are a tough, edgy, elbowing team. That's what they do. All right, they're in your face. I don't know. I know the Canadiens want to be that team, but that's not necessarily how they're going to be built. And I don't necessarily agree. I think the team's going to overpay for him, and I think they're going to be disappointed. We'll talk 3 years down the line.
I will say this though, even though I like Sam Bennett, I don't think he's at like number one on Montreal's list.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, 51 points is his career total. That's Uri Slafkovsky got 51 points this year. Like, and you're talking to signing him to 2
entirely different players.
I understand that. But this guy's playing with Tkachuk.
I don't even see 51 points.
No, you saw that?
49 in 2021-2022 looks to be his highest. This year he had 41.
Oh, sorry.
He had 51 points in 76 games this season.
This season.
And he had 25 goals.
All right.
Then he had 41 and 69, 40 and 63. So, he has trouble completing his seasons.
So, yes, you're right. It was 51 for whatever
reason. His face-off percentage is not fantastic either, but it's just that's why I said I think he's going to be something they're going to talk.
That was last season. That's why. Okay.
There's something that they're going to talk to. I just don't think he's going to be at the top of the list.
So it was a loaded question, and I'm happy that I was able to sell Luca on it because I don't think he's a good fit.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So that to me, I have to mostly agree with everything Dave is saying. I think he's fringely overrated. Again, I think if you look at what he does and what he brings, and that's what you're looking for.
Say star player when you were selling.
Well, and that was part of my sell job. Exactly. Like I think if he can take, if there's some way somehow another step in his game after whatever it is. I mean, he's been in the league since.
I don't think there's another step to his game. This is Sam Bennett. Yeah, this is who who was drafted back then to be this kind of guy.
This guy again. Back to what Luca was suggesting.
I'm doubling down. By the way, he's gonna superstar Demi-Dog and him. Gonna rip it up. Doubling down.
Having Sam Bennett as your 3C with that kind of team character, a la Florida Panthers, makes a tremendous amount of sense. And he shines in that element.
$1 million. I would not pay $7 million.
I would not pay him $7 million to be the 2C on this team again, because I don't think that he has the scoring touch that the team is missing. He has every other because people want him on the team, and I don't want to tell these people that they're nuts, because I think if he were on the team, he'd be a tremendous help to the team. It's just when you're looking to plug that particular 2C hole, that is not a guy that you put there that is supposed to be like a hard-nosed, penalty-getting, but like tough as nails type guy who only puts up 50 points at a high end of his career. You need a scoring touch guy there. You need a guy with finesse. You need a guy with skill. And I don't think that that's this guy. Again, he checks off all the other boxes, like you were naming off a couple there: championship pedigree, tough, all this kind of stuff. True. Right? He has the left-hand shot, which I think they want there too. All true. It's just the finish. And if he doesn't have that kind of finish with the Florida Panthers, I don't think he's going to have that kind of finish with the Montreal Canadiens. So, to let Vito, which we'll now start with, get the first grab at this, because this is where you were going. Another interesting team that's out there to talk about, and this we're gonna set some context, okay? Before anybody jumps down my, about where I'm going with this. Just hear us out. It's off season. It's for fun. But there is some elements to this that makes it a little bit more potentially viable than any other time. The New York Islanders just got the first overall pick. They won the draft lottery. They have a vacancy for president of hockey ops and for their GM. They are underperforming seemingly year after year. Now might be a very, very good time for this team to consider the rebuild. If they decide to do that, and they've already made mention when Lou was in charge last season, there was players like Dobson you were hearing that was kind of being shopped around and like, are you interested? Horvat, even Barzal at a time was out there. These guys could be made available for the right price if you're returning a bunch of assets like first-round picks and such to a team that's going to look to start the rebuild and would like to take a real springboard approach to it. Getting that first overall pick was massive for this team. They shot up. Their odds were super low. This could change the narrative of where that team is going, potentially. If we go down that road, now that I've set the context up, Vito, is there a scenario where some way, somehow, you look at this team, you're the Montreal Canadiens, you say, I have 2 picks in the middle of the first round of this year. I've got a first-round pick next year. I got second-round picks. I've got prospects. I've got roster players even. It's like a king's ransom. Put a package together, but I would like to walk away with either Barzal or Horvat and Dobson. It's very NHL 25. We're just having fun. But I think if there was ever a time and there was ever a chance with a team that was in the right place to give these things up in their rebuild to a team that is looking to start a rebuild, there might be something here. What do you think would be that scenario? What is that package?
Okay, so off the top, those 2 first-round picks of this year are gone. They'd have to be included, right? Especially if it's for both players you're bringing up. And yes, they do. Barzal or Horvat and Dobson address the 2C and the right defense needs that the Montreal Canadiens have.
You're done. Yes.
Right?
And quickly, though, who do you take over, Barzal or Horvat? Who do you try to get
I think the Montreal Canadiens need more Bo Horvat than Barzal. And when you look at Bo Horvat's numbers and you look at the cap, Bo Horvat costs a little less too. But if you look at Bo Horvat's numbers, he's not a playmaker the way Barzal is, but they already have somebody like Demidov who's projected to be more of a playmaker, a superstar playmaker, more so than a goal scorer. If you look at Bo Horvat, he's been like a 30-plus goal scorer for the last 3 or 4 years. Plus, he's been, steady 60, 70 points, somewhere in that pocket there, which is really good for a 2C, especially if you're not getting, one of the Dreisaitl's, or you're not in an Edmonton or Toronto situation right there where you can't get superstars that could just plug those positions. But I would say that you're looking at the 2 first-round picks. You're looking. They would need a defenseman who could play big minutes right away back in return too. I'm thinking off the top of my head would probably be somebody like Matheson. You're gonna have to probably even throw in a prospect that's gonna entice them a little bit. Maybe like on the defense too. Maybe Logan Mailloux. This is one of those times where I was gonna say you could include Kirby Dach in this. And then there might have to be even more because you're again, it's not an easy trade to make. Montreal does have the pieces to make it happen. I will say that. And I think that New York Islanders getting that first overall pick and then stacking other picks in the same year will speed up whatever plans of a retool or rebuild they might have in their head right now. And in addition, I believe they've got some first round picks next year too. They got some good picks too, New York Islanders. So this could end up becoming a really quick retooling, and they'd have to just add the youth to go with it, add some defensemen to bid their time a little bit until they can use up all those picks and move forward with it. So it's a bit NHL 25-esque as you're saying, but I think there's something there to make the money work, to make all the picks work, to make the assets all.
Sum it up again. What's your
2 first rounds this year?
Mm-hmm.
2 first rounds this year.
Matheson Logan Mailloux, Kirby Dach, and maybe something else, he said.
And maybe something. But I will say this: chances are that if they're gonna go in Montreal, wants to really do this, they're gonna ask for something that Montreal's not willing to part with, which would be like Caulfield.
What in there speeds up the retool? I don't understand. Like you just said, speed up the what speeds up? Picks don't speed up retools right off the bat, so forget that.
No.
What speeds it up?
If it's a rebuild, then the picks they're gonna want them. They're gonna want to inject that team with youth because their cupboard is bare. They have nothing left really. So they're gonna want to be like Boston without messing it up the way Boston did when they got the Brusque and whatnot, and all those guys. 3 picks in the first round, 2 of which were back to back. And that was the McAvoy
3 of them
draft.
were back to
Three.
back.
I think all 3 are back to back.
Right.
And then the next one was Barzal.
Right. Well, there was a few players that they could pick. But I'm just saying that this is a draft that they could stock their cupboards and get good talent in. And in addition to the next year's draft, which is supposed to be generational, especially with Gavin McKenna there, who knows, a lot of teams are going to want to improve their odds for next year's lottery. They're going to want to do that. There's a lot of teams for Gavin McKenna that you're going to see. They're going to pull a Chicago Blackhawks, and they're going to get rid of players. And I think the Islanders are a good candidate for that.
Man, all right. I mean, to me, they're far away. They'd have to really, really carve out their roster in order to get to that.
Well, the only thing that hurts them that they won't do is they're not going to trade Sorokin, right? Like Sorokin is an untouchable in that
There's
roster.
your big problem,
right?
There's your big problem.
They're
going to keep you from the bottom.
They're going to try. In my opinion, it wouldn't surprise me. Now, again, this is all dependent on who's the GM that's going to take over, right? If Bergevin's rumored to go there. Between you and I, we've never seen Bergevin rebuild a team, and I don't know that if that's the path he takes.
Okay, hold on. Let's move past the veto show for a second. But Dave, tell me, put aside the reality for a second. I think we're all in agreement that blockbusters like this, and even the scenario is not the perfect storm to make this happen, but in a fun way, because it would address both needs on the Canadiens, and they potentially might go down that road of a rebuild, not a retool, which would net them and want them to have these kind of first rounds that Montreal Canadiens have and stuff. What do you think it would really realistically take?
It would take a good young roster player like Alec Cole-Caulfield or Uri Slafkovsky, which the Canadiens won't do. So I think the conversation for that is moot. I don't see a world where they're just accepting first-round picks and Kirby Dach. Like, it doesn't make sense to trade a guy who got a defenseman who had 70 points a few years ago and your first-line center for freaking – for some picks that are not even great picks, 16, 17, like those are crap shoots, man. Like that's not at all guaranteed to be NHL stars, let alone players. We've seen so many duds.
Could they not trade those? Sorry, could they not trade those with some other things if they acquired and move up to the top 10 and get 2 picks in the top 10? Is that not realistic?
If they were to acquire Montreal's 2 firsts, that would give the New York Islanders 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years.
I understand that, man, but it's a gamble, the first-round picks, right? It's not a guarantee. And again, it's just like, look at you just named the example of Boston. Like, it's not a guarantee that you're going to get studs in the first round. Why would you trade arguably two of your 3 best players other than your goaltender for that? Would you do it? If you were a general manager, would you do it? Yes or no?
Yes or no?
No.
If you're you, would you do it?
You were given the Islanders job tomorrow. Would you do it?
I'll say this.
Yes or no, Vito?
Hold on. Given that I just won the first overall pick, and I would have 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years, it's really enticing. It's enticing when you think of it.
Why?
It is, especially with the type of draft that's coming up next year. And having more darts on that board to be able to do what you need to do, because it's not a if they get with their picks next year and this year, they could cause some damage in their draft and get some really good players and some really good prospects and have a bright future, which the Islanders don't have a bright future. They don't even have a good present, and it's been years that they don't have any of this stuff. They haven't been in a situation like this.
They still have their pick next year. They still have the first overall pick, and they have a 70-point defenseman and a proper first round.
Right, but the rumors. This is also all predicated on the fact that there was rumors about Dobson not being happy, changing. I believe he changed his agent, and he was not sure about re-signing and maybe demanding a trade to begin with. So again, that's the Dobson side of things. The Bo Horvat one or the Barzal one, it's their call. I believe they got no movement clauses and whatnot. They would have to decide whether they want to move on or not. But they're a good fit for Montreal.
Yeah, exactly. It looks perfect from our point of view, and then when you switch it around to see the Islanders fans' point of view, why?
Tell me what it would take to make the move, Dave.
I just
even
told
if
you, it's going to take
okay,
you 2 firsts.
Both first, Caulfield.
Cole Caulfield or Juraj Slafkovsky, and probably a sweetener. Hey, you want to add Kirby Dach to this trade? Add Kirby Dach to the trade. Let's do it.
Okay.
Why not? To make the money work or whatever you want to do.
That package, as Montreal, I don't do it.
Of course not. And that's why it's not going to happen. And not for both. Maybe there's a play where you offer Sheep Dobson or you make a move for one of them. But both, it's just they don't have the assets. They have the assets. They're probably not willing to part. Well, they're not probably. They're not willing to part with what it will take to get him. And if it does, that's a terrible start for the New York Islanders general manager. I'm telling you right now, if that trade that Vito said happened to a new general manager that just stepped into the role, you're talking about how Ken Hughes fleeced them 3 days later. I'm guaranteeing you it, and that's just
Luca. Talk to us, baby. What would it take?
What would it take? It would take a lot. But why are we only focusing on roster players? We have a lot of prospects, right? I mean, initially I was thinking like throw the bank, just give them everything, give them all the picks next year, whatever they want. But what about Owen Beck, Oliver Kapanen, 2 first rounds, and next year's first round.
But Owen Beck is not, again, and I hate to say this, everyone wants to throw Owen Beck around. Owen Beck is not trending to be a top 6 player, like in the NHL. Like, why would a team be interested in that, realistically?
Because
you draft your own guy that way.
Because of the first round picks.
What if
first round picks?
What if not hold
and
first round picks in the
prospects?
Highest,
and Logan Mailloux, let's throw him in. Like, you don't have to throw
Luke,
him.
you know what the real problem is here with this discussion? Dave has never been, like how some people put a certain value on first round picks, unless it's the first overall. Dave's never really been. Okay,
it's not even the first overall. Like top 10 is fine. Okay, or top 8 maybe. Okay, even top 10 is. But after that, it's a crapshoot, and it's proven statistically that it's you're more likely to miss than you are to hit. And not only that, but I'm going to do this research one day, okay? The teams that collect picks and stockpile picks, if I'm not mistaken, they don't historically do well either. So to me, it just seems as though like everyone loves the hope of what a first round pick could be.
I will change one piece. I'll take Logan Mailloux out. I'll put David Reinbacher in.
That makes it more interesting right off the bat.
I'll put David Reinbacher. My brain just clicked and said, if you're getting somebody like Dobson at the age he's at, going into his prime years and all that, getting a former 5th overall pick, who even though some said he should have probably gone 8th, but even though he was deemed as the best defenseman of that draft, I'll put Reinbacher in.
You'd give Reinbacher.
The Canadiens wouldn't, though. So the
Canadiens might not, but for Noah Dobson, think about this. Noah Dobson plugs in at the top right-hand defenseman side with a Lane Hudson, potentially, right? Yeah. Or he's on the second pairing with a Caden Gooley, and that way it's more stable of a thing. Right. Then you got Carrier, and you got, let's say they kept Logan Mailloux. You have Logan Mailloux. Your right-hand side is completely covered. And it's not like you're getting an old player in Dobson. You're getting a guy who had a down year that just passed, and the year before that had 70-plus points.
Don't have to sell us on Noah Dobson.
No, exactly.
What?
You don't have to sell us on Dobson.
No, you know what I mean? So at this point, it's like even if Reinbacher was ready to play tomorrow, it's by the time Reinbacher gets to a Noah Dobson level, 5 years, 6 years, if he ever gets there.
I also don't think Reinbacher is projected to be a guy that's going to play defense and get 70 points.
No, I always said it. I said it from the day he was drafted on a where I think the Montreal Canadiens see Reinbacher and hope that he becomes this. That's a key word. Is hope is that he becomes the Devin Taves to Lane Hudson. Do you know how Devin Taves has Cale Makar? Mm-hmm. It's a stable guy who's going to be sound. He'll produce some secondary points, but you're going to need that type of guy in the playoffs, just like you're going to need that type of size throughout the season. I see a Devin Taves. People linked him to Pietrangelo. They said on a low side he'd be a Colton Parayko. There's these types of names. I always saw it as he's going to be a Devin Taves, something like that, right? So But again, if you're telling me Noah Dobson would come with a Bo Horvat or some of that, and Reinbacher has to be thrown in there, and some other things, other elements, yeah, you look at it now, it makes it very different because it's technically it's 3 first-round picks, and it's and it's that.
Yeah. The reason for the question, just for the sake of just shooting the shit about it and having fun, is I think there's a much more logical way of addressing talking to the New York Islanders and going after one piece. You can definitely make a trade for one of those 3. I mean, the level of what you'd have to give back for any one of those 3 will differ, but there is something that could be played there. But the tantalating idea of being able to solve your 2C and your top right-handed in one trade is a fun thing to talk about. But to Dave's point, it really depends, right? First-round picks, I think you'd have to probably include the first-round pick of next year right out the gate. Then you're talking about things like for example, I mean, depending where they want to go, I mean, just to ice something and you got, I mean, I don't even to speculate. You guys basically nailed it with all the different levels. I don't think it's plausible, to be honest with you. But I do think that you got to kick the tires. I mean, you have to. And then see realistically if there's something that could be, go for the whole shot, go for both players, and then work your way down to one. And see if you can bring one of those guys back. I think getting Bo Horvat would be the solution to 2C on this team, in my opinion. I would prefer Barzal. I get Vito's point though. The goal scoring, you can go look up their stats. Bo Horvat scores goals. Barzal is a playmaker. They're different. And I think with Demidov on that line, I think to Vito's point, Bo Horvat would probably be the guy. He's a little bit older as well, so that's another element to it that maybe they're more inclined to kind of keep Barzal. And then Noah Dobson is just like, that would be, I don't know how you would pull that off, but if he comes in here, could you even imagine like how that changes your
that's
whole
why
defense?
I'm saying that kind of package, you're right. It's going to probably come down to, if it is with the New York Islanders and they're perfect trading partners or whatever, it's probably going to come down to the 2C more than it's going to be the right defense. But yeah, I guess you're right. You'd be right. They'd have to probably include also next year's first round top 10 protected.
I mean, the framework of that trade, it would be ridiculous. And I mean, if you're at this point, this far into the episode, if you're listening and you want to let us know what you think, forget the fact that it's not happening. None of us are saying it's going to happen. But for the fun of it in off-season mode, NHL 25 hat on, what would it take to happen? We'd be very curious to know. My last quick question to you, and I don't need any form of getting into the details, just a yes or a no as I leave you here. Do you think, or would you try Arber Xhekaj as a forward on the fourth line next season? Luca.
No.
Okay. Vito.
No.
Dave.
No.
Okay.
No, but I'll bring his brother up.
Yeah.
I was just curious. There's so many fun things that are out there. I love the Canadiens fans in the offseason with the things that they come up. Oh, there's no spot for Arber Xhekaj in the defense, but idea. Let's make him a forward. I'm like, okay,
guys. If you know what's a quick a Kent Hughes move. Somehow, someway, Mason McTavish ends up on Montreal Canadiens.
To be talked about in another episode. Thank you very much for making it to the end. Again, like, subscribe if you haven't. Thanks very much for sticking with us. There's going to be more of these with more things and possible more NHL 25 talks in our head about trade scenarios and stuff as we're in the offseason, as we approach and move up to the draft, where hopefully we'll look into a little bit of the potentials if they keep those picks. Who might the Canadiens be interested in? Stay tuned for those episodes. And in the meantime, for Dave, Vito, and Luca, I'm Matt, and this was
Get Pucked.